We flipped a coin, okay? You and me. You and me. CoinFlip is sacred.
Y'all ready for a show today, baby?
Go time, baby. We've been waiting all week for this. This is where it happens right here, man. We man up, we stand up. We man up, we stand up. We're all we got. We're all we got. We're all we got. We're all we got.
Hit anything that moves. We're playmakers, man. We advance, nothing less.
You don't like this? Trust me, you don't like it.
We're between the white lines. This is football. Welcome to the big league. I won the toss. I took the football. Drive it down their throat.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your skull? Hey, every season is full of defining moments. Let's make this day a defining moment for us in our quest. Game time! Game time!
Welcome, everybody, to NFL Week 2 episode of the CoinFlip. I will start out by apologizing for last week. Obviously, it was away on the road. I recorded it, but however, I had my beats set up. It did not get my vocals, so it was a 40-ish minutes of complete silence. So I had a short window to get everything done, so I was kind of done with that. And then the Audible Sunday, JB lost power that morning. Actually barely got it on before football started, so a lot of technical issues last week, but we're back this week ready to roll. Changed a little bit of the format the way I'm doing it this year, especially being solo for now. May bring a guest or two on, or eventually get a duo on again for football. We'll just see how it goes week to week. The Smash Factor has had great feedback, especially from the community, the way the solo has gone. And football's even worse. There's so much content out there. It's almost too much at times. So I want an action-packed 30-40 minute type pod. You guys can listen to it quick, get all the information. It's normally I'm going to try to record it around this same time on Thursdays every week, depending on our schedules, and just kind of wham bam, thank you, man, type of deal. Get as much information there we can. A lot will can change with injuries. So any of these pods done, unless we did a pod like Saturday, it's difficult to predict everything, which is, for the premium members, it's key to get in there, especially Sunday mornings, moving the Audible to Sunday morning now instead of mid-afternoon Saturday. Going to kind of probably go live like 11:15 Eastern and try to cross over to the inactives. And so probably 11:15, 11:45 would be the game plan. Still gives us an hour and 45 or hour and 15 minutes to change lineups and do any tweaks after the show goes off, but that'll depend on you guys. As long as you guys are in there and we're active and asking questions or whatever, I'll stay. If no one's in there, then we'll wrap it up and go finish our lineups. Now that all that's away, last week, interesting week one. I think for the most part, when you look at betting and kind of any DFS stuff, the unique last week, panned out. I saw Rodgers anywhere from 1% to 4% in most leagues, and that duo and that game stack, was pretty much in any big winner last week. And then betting wise, the quote unquote sharps or kind of big games that people had, really fell by the wayside. A lot of low numbers in the super contest, super 7, however you're looking at that as far as winning percentages. But, that happens not only in a week one, but especially coming off of no preseason, you're kind of just assuming stuff. My favorite week, and I said this last week of the year, is week 2, because from a DFS perspective and betting in general, we can take advantage of overreaction to one game sample. Some of it's good reaction, and we can play on that as well, but some of it people just write off, and you're like, well, are we really going to be done with that guy after 1 week? Or, is this a good spot to take leverage? And I'll kind of go through that on my plays today. But as always, join us or join Super Draft on gupscorner.com/affiliates. Deposit now. You can deposit up to $1,000 and get 50% match. A little bit of a slow drip going back there, but you can play any sports, golf, football, basketball, while it's going on, MLB, hockey. They have tons of stuff going on now. Their football pots are really big. D-Rock does our article for them, so we got you covered there. It's a good site, especially if you're especially with football. If you're intimidated by the 250, 300,000 entries. I think the Millie last week, the $5 one, had 1 million entries. So if you're, I try to tell people you're probably still wanting to play DK because the pots are bigger. So let's not act like we're not going to do that. But I would say maybe use your cash pool money if that's what you do for your super draft, because you can get into some GPPs that aren't filling yet. pretty good up top pots. You don't have to max them because they're probably not going to fill anyways. And you may put 10 lineups in the $10 or $15 where they have, and you may cash that thing for, I don't remember what the top prize was last week, but you know, that may be a leverage, and it gets you some GPP testing and work around, just strategizing a little bit for as you build your bankroll. So that's one thing I like to tell listeners, especially on football, because I mean, golf's one thing, and you know, especially during when nothing was going around, DK upped the golf pots, and thankfully the community and industry supported it. We were filling every week, which is why a lot of people were disappointed with the U.S. Open pots this week, because I think. And DK learned, you look at how many seconds and thirds and fourths contests they had to put up there because people just kept filling them, even though football was back. It's like, hey, there's a lot of people that started playing golf DFS since June, and they actually like, man, I love this. I like football, I like NFL. It was my favorite, but this is my favorite DFS sport is golf. The sweat, the cut sweat, the 4 days, the strategy. You know, you don't lose your money by, you know, the third drive in football on Sunday. You know, if you don't have a big stack that's going off, you know, you got to make the cut, and that's still a fun sweat. And you know, something like this, U.S. Opens now, which is tremendous. I saw Twitter kind of blowing up on the whole what happened to the carnage. But if you look at it, there's really, I looked at it right before I got on. I think there's 7 or 8 guys. I got the leaderboard right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that are actually done under par at a 72 in the morning. So yeah, there's probably more under par scores than what was projected right now, but it's day one. Let's let day one finish. There's still 60 guys over par in the morning or something like that. So I don't think it's easy by any means. And I think the afternoon may play a little tough. And tomorrow afternoon is going to be what at the moment the windiest part of the week. So the guys that played this morning in some softer conditions are going to have to battle through that tomorrow. So I think by the time we get to Friday's round over or being over, it'll be pretty. I don't think it's going to maybe not as worse as some of us thought, but I still think it's brutal. You can see there's tons of high scores out there. But enough of golf. We're here for football. Make sure you rate and review us on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, like us on Instagram, Facebook. That means a lot to us. It helps us out. We're trying to grow this subscriptions on YouTube. We're almost to 2,000 now. I'm going to start trying to do like the cup stuff and some of the other things on YouTube as well. So you guys can get videos. A lot of guys like watching videos. And so that, you know, instead of that being audio only, we'll work towards having some of those on YouTube as well as Smash Factor and this one. And then maybe Bobby wants to work towards on the college football and Ryan on NASCAR. We'll kind of build that up to get our YouTube collection up. Rate and review us on iTunes are always critical. I've always mentioned when we do big giveaways, those are 2 of the things I go to pull from. Who's subscribed to us on YouTube and then who's rating and review us on iTunes. So it always helps us there. The listener link is up. It's been posted and tweeted at Gups Corner. I'll also embed it into the podcast link after the show, so you can click it. If you didn't hear last week, we're doing a listener league winner for the full season for golf and football this year. We just started golf. We started both last week. On football, since there's only X amount of weeks. I don't know how far I want to go. I'll probably go like 15 weeks, and then we may have week 16 be kind of the big one because week 17 can be kind of weird. I'm going to do the top 3 each week, get into the league. Golf, it's just going to be the one winner each week all the way until we get to next year. We got 50 tournaments or something to go through. So top 3 last week was Ollie 12, ETS 45, and My Morning Undies. Ollie's 12 lineup. He had Rogers, Adams, which was probably a no-brainer. Great stack. Rogers was 1.2%. I wasn't really on him too big. I knew Minnesota secondary was going to be bad, but I just like some other plays. He had Jacobs, which I liked last week. Gibson, Ridley, who I wrote up. Metcalf, Ertz, Mozart, and then the Washington football team. So solid lineup for him. Well put together. Hopefully he had that in some other stuff because it was a good scoring lineup overall. This Sunday's main slate is a 13-game slate, which is about as big as it gets to the end. You start getting bye weeks coming in there, but 10 early and 3 late, which kind of sucks because the early is great, but it's so much to absorb, especially when you're trying to, like me, I'm trying to take notes and pay attention and look at, I got to go back and watch a lot of those because I can only get so much on your screen. I mean, I have the ticket with 8 on one, and then I have the red zone on the other. and then there's 3 late. So then there's a lot of boring time. But, you know, I don't know if they did it because of when the U.S. Open's finishing or anything like that. I don't think football really cares, but it's frustrating. And a lot of people don't understand why they split it like that, but it is what it is. The good thing about it is all the inactives at 11:30 Eastern, we get a majority of the slate. We know the inactives. So there's not as much, well, what do I do? Because I don't know if X is going to play or not, because his inactives won't come out until, after these games have already started. That's the only positive from the DFS perspective. If you're new to the pod, thank you. Appreciate it. We gained a lot of followers throughout the year on golf. So this may be your first time listening to the Coin Flip. I keep it pretty straightforward. I have the playbook, which I go down each position. I give my plays, fades, values, / sleepers, 1 each for quarterback and tight ends, 2 each for running back and wide receiver with the fade, and then 1 play and a value for defense. The value this year, instead of putting it towards a price, it could be price or ownership, because I think that matters just as much, if not more at times. Like the price, if a guy could be priced up, but he's going to be 3% owned, that could be a value in the sense of you're getting leverage on the field. So that's how I'm dictating value this year. And I'll give the numbers with each value I have. I'll run down an injury concerns as it sits today for each position as we go position by position. Then I do a last 4 out / gut play. So just guys I like, they didn't fit up top anywhere. I wanted to mention them since it's a solo pod. And there's not a bunch of plays going out there. By the time you get through it, you're like, hell, I don't remember who all you liked. Keeping it quick, concise, and let you guys get to it. Best thing to get all of our final information. We got Ryan's cash article, which I would put up against anybody's in the entire industry. We got Bobby's new What If article that's amazing. It was great last week. I think it's a great addition to the lineup. I'm bringing the Triple G version over from golf over here. And then I will also have a GPP type article that was kind of like the Glorious Nucleus, if you're familiar with golf, over to NFL as well. So we got you covered all there. By the time we get to Sunday morning, I think you're going to feel as confident as you can be once we wrap up the Audible with all our content we have. So it's a great time to join. Football 25 gets you 25% off if you want to check that out. I wrap it up with my favorite 2 stacks of the week, and then I go through betting / contest. My 2 favorite plays in the Super 7 using the Super 7 spreads. My dog of the week, the best underdog I think that could win outright, and then I give a lean on Survivor pick because at this point I'm still not locking into anything, kind of like one and done per se. So we'll start off with the playbook. Quarterback right now, no injury concerns for the main starters on the slate this week. My play is I like Brady and I want to play him. The concern is, Godwin's in concussion protocol and Evans is still questionable. Now Evans played last week. I don't know if that's just a standard tag on him. I didn't really hear much about him re-injuring it per se last week. If both those guys are in, my play is Brady. This is a rare week where I'm going to give you a 1B because it's early. It's Thursday. We don't know. Dak would also be a guy that I'm looking at. A little bit higher up in percentage owned, but he's still only 10%. None of these quarterbacks ever really get too high on. They kind of spread out between 5 to 8 guys. Current highestly projected for me right now is Kyler and Lamar, and then Dak. Kyler and Lamar for obvious reasons. Both have good matchups this week. I would lean Kyler there over Lamar just because you're saving $2,100. And what the only deal is Washington does get pressure on the quarterback. We saw that last week, especially with the defensive ends they have. But I don't know if I'm gonna go either one there because I want to try to avoid some chalk. But we'll kind of get down there. So right now, my favorite play is Brady, assuming the wide receiver. If one of the two play and Scotty Miller will be there, you got Gronk. You got I like that still. But my 1B would be Dak. Let's just say worst case, like Godwin and Henry or Evans are out, then I'm not going to play Brady. But I think this is a bounce back week for Brady. Everybody could be kind of down on him after the subpar performance. He's only showing 6% right now. Could be a big week against Carolina. My fade is Mahomes. I like Mahomes. Have no issues with them. They are going on the road to the Chargers. He's 8%, which isn't too high. He's the 4th highest. But for $7,700, if I'm going to pay that up at quarterback, I'm just going to go to Lamar. I get a better floor with the running, and Houston's secondary is not great. So he could actually have a pretty good passing game plus have some rushing yards. So I think the upside with Lamar for just $500 more is where I would go. I don't know if I'm going to go to either one of them, but my solid fade for sure would be Mahomes this week. My value is Trubisky, 3.6% right now in ownership. subpar performance until the fourth quarter. Then they kind of turn it on. Giants, we saw, even though that D has improved some, and they started pretty decent against the Steelers, Steelers still found their way. And, I think Robinson could have a big day, and they have a good wide receiver threat in general. And if Trubisky give us some rushing upside, so I don't mind that as well. And at only 3.5% at $5,500, so it's a dual value. It's pretty cheap for a quarterback. Plus I'm getting him low on, and I think he has high side or upside, and he's at home. So I'm going to be on Trubisky unless something changes. I know there's a whole Robinson dilemma going on. Sounds like everything's squashed based on last night. So I like it even more. Running back, injury concerns. Let me get a little drink here. Marlon Mack's out for the year. We know that. I just wanted to reiterate it. Phillip Lindsay's questionable. He did not practice yesterday. Connor, same thing, questionable, didn't practice yesterday. Le'Veon is out till at least week 5. Duke Johnson, which I don't really think anybody's going to be looking at Duke, but Duke is questionable, limited in practice Wednesday. Those are the guys. Each week, I'm just going to go over guys that are 50% or higher owned in most quote-unquote standard leagues. It's just kind of a guide I'm using. If they're on the injury report on Thursday, I'll run it through just so we can, make note of it, in case you happen to not be paying attention to that kind of stuff. My play is Derrick Henry. He's still showing pretty high ownership for me right now, 20%. Right now, Jonathan Taylor's number 1, or Benny Snell's number 1, Taylor's 2, Elliott's 3, and then Henry. Snell and Taylor, I don't know if I'm there. Snell I could see, but I'm not gonna eat a 30% running back at that price just to make other stuff fit. Maybe cash type deal. I'd be interested to see what Ryan says about him. First, we got to see if Connors is out. It wasn't great as a high ankle sprain, which is positive, and he still could play. So we'll see how that works out. Taylor, I know everybody's going to be high on him because Mack is out, but Hines and him was 9 carries and 7 carries after Hines. After Mack went out. So it wasn't like they just went all in on Taylor. Minnesota is not very good at stopping the run right now, but we'll have to see how that plays out. So I like Henry. I'm willing to pay up here. I typically go cheaper at quarterback. I think they're going to feed him the rock. Jacksonville's run D is not very great. I think they want to. Last week, their offense struggled, so they need to establish that run a little bit better than what they did last week, on the road. But so at 7,900, I'm getting a $2,100 discount from McCaffrey. I think he has as close to upside there. Maybe his ownership doesn't get that high with people kind of like, I didn't look that good or whatever, but I'm going back to Henry. CEH for the Chiefs is currently showing 10%, which kind of surprised me. They did feed him the rock. There was no denying it. And, at $7,400, 10% ownership, I got him projected at 17 points. I like his upside. I like his floor as well. So I'm going to go, CEH up there as my second player. Running back, my fade, it's probably going to be a theme for a while, but Christian McCaffrey. I did this last year, and it'll hurt me some. It may not, but I just can't. He will have a breakout game at some point. I'm just willing to fade the $10,000. And I think there's enough running backs out there in decent matchups with close to the same, upside. Zeke, I like Zeke. They're getting him involved in the passing game. If I play Dak, I don't mind playing Zeke in one wide receiver or something like that. Like I just said, Henry, I don't mind that. Edwards, don't mind that. Barkley, $1,600 cheaper. Don't mind him. They're going to get him involved in the passing game. Going to have to because they struggle to protect the quarterback right now some. So all those guys, I'm just saving so much money that I can go elsewhere. I may play him from time to time, but right now I'm fading him at the 10,000. I don't know if that number will adjust, and mainly because we just don't know what that offense is going to look like. With Bridgewater week in and week out. Let's see it a few times. Tampa's good up front as well. Struggle in the secondary at times, but they can stop the run. Like, Kamara stuff last week was more catching it, getting out, and they had so many weapons to spread Tampa out with. Carolina doesn't have as many as that, or to the talent that the Saints had. Taysom Hill gets in there. They got to worry about him. And just spread him out more. I think Tampa will slow him down some, but he can easily make it up in the passing game, which is why he's 10,000. He can get there. I just going to look at it as a fade this week. My first value is Aaron Jones. first I didn't know, but I went back and looked at the numbers. I watched the offensive view, so behind like Madden view of that game last week. He ran well. He got the majority of the rushing carries, although they did split it. He was still more than 50% of the carries. He was targeted out of the backfield, I think 4 times. At 4%, I know he's 7,100, but the 4% number I think could give you some leverage there against the field of someone that may not be owned, especially if you go back to Rodgers, which I don't hate this week. I don't think the Lions are world beaters by any means. And so I think it's a good leverage play at 4%. So Aaron Jones is my first value / low own, whatever you want to call it. My second one I mentioned just a minute ago is Barkley, currently showing 5.6%. The Bears are a decent job last week, and they're good, but I think they're going to continue to try to figure out how to get Barkley involved more and more. And if they're getting struggled running through the gaps because the O-line is a little weak, then maybe he winds up with, kind of a mini CMC number where he starts getting 7-8 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown plus some rushing, something like that. As long as they're committing to getting the ball at 5.6%, I don't mind paying the 8,400 because I'm getting so much leverage on the field in that situation. So he's my second value of the week. Wide receiver, this is going to take a while. There is a ton of wide receivers on the I knew there was a lot just by watching all the games and stuff, but I was like, wow, when you start typing it all out, you're like, holy man, there's some injuries. A lot of times these question tags are just there. It's typical NFL, and by Saturday they're fine. But I'll run through them. Deontay Johnson, questionable for week 2. N'Keal Harry, Juju, Crowder, Edelman, Julio, Corey Davis, John Brown, AJ Brown, Mike Evans, Godwin, Landry. Michael Thompson is doubtful, and I don't think they ruled him out. I just looked before I got on. I thought they ruled him out yesterday. I thought I saw out for weeks, but I was so ingrained in getting U.S. Open prep done. The official deal on the NFL says doubtful for week 2. Sutton is questionable, but he was real close to playing last week. I think he plays, but he does have the questionable tag. Same with Tate. He was close to playing last week. I think he plays. Cooks questionable, Galladay questionable. I think Galladay is the same way. I think he was close to playing, and he may play this week. Devontae Parker questionable. Debo is out until at least week 4 based on the IR rules that they put out. So my play this week is Hopkins. I like Godwin, but because of the question, he's in concussion protocol. This kind of goes back to up top with Brady. Godwin's a play for me if they play this week, but being that we don't know that, and Julio's even questionable right now, but I like Hopkins. I could play him naked because I think we saw last week 14. I think Kyler's going to try to get him the ball. They may have to he can run the cross routes, slants and stuff like that quick in case that Redskins pressure gets there. They may have to get in the ball quick, but I think that's fine. But they're going to try to get in the ball any way they can. Trying to figure out more about that running back situation, who's going to be more in. We've heard that Kyler likes Chase a lot. We saw him a lot last week, Drake, but I think the running backs at the backfield are going to be big this week. So that's on the radar for me. I didn't really mention it, but think about that if you're going to play a Kyler. But I like Hopkins. I think he gets 10 plus catches again. Redskins secondary is suspect at times. So I like him. And Kyler is mobile in the pocket to let Hopkins get open, and he can get open if he has time. I like Cooper. Probably my note here is if you want to play Adams, play him. He's going to be the highest by far on the slate. He's the most expensive, 8,100. I can't say I'm not going to play him yet. I'm trying to work through my builds and all that, but I like Cooper this week, especially if I'm going to pair him up with Dak. I think they have a big game against Atlanta, kind of a bounce back game. He's $1,800 cheaper, about 5% less projected own right now. I have no issues with Adams, so I just want to throw it out there. So people say you don't even like Adams. No, I'm trying. We can all go through there and pick Christian McCaffrey, Adams. That's not rocket science. So I'm trying to be a little bit more in depth than that. So I like Cooper this week. Really didn't get targeted that much. Well, he did. I mean, he got targeted. He just didn't get good catches, whatever you want to say. They just didn't have a good game, but I think they started to click, towards the end. Bad call cuts off a chance for them to win. I think it's a bounce back week for the Cowboys this week, and I'm going to have a lot of them in my builds. My fade is going to be I just lost it. Where do you? Oh, there we go. Terry McLaurin at Washington. mainly because he's so high. I mean, he's projected at 12%. I know Arizona can struggle in the secondary, but there's just so many other plays I like at 5,900, and it mainly has to do with the quarterback. I just don't trust Haskins enough to be able to get McLaurin enough involved for me to eat that 12% chalk. He's like the third highest projected own right now, right there. Third to fifth highest. There's like 2 at 12%, 1 at 13%. So I'm going to fade him. He's the weakest quarterback with a solid wide receiver that in the matchup that I don't like. So I'm going to fade McLaurin this week. My first value is Robinson, only showing 7% right now. And maybe that comes up as it seems like they've kumbaya'd and everybody's happy. But if it doesn't, great, because I like Trubisky and Robinson this week. I'll take 7% on his talent every day of the week against the Giants secondary. That's pretty much it. I'm going to play him, no issues, unless something just comes out where he's potentially sitting or, contract wants traded or whatever. But they've supposedly, as of last night, that's all cleared up. We'll see by the time we get to Sunday. My next value is Will Fuller, 3% owned. He had a ton of targets last week. I know they're playing Baltimore, but Watson's a good quarterback. He's going to make something happen. I was high on Fuller preseason. I think he'll have a solid year. We all know, as long as he stays healthy. But Baltimore's defense is good. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, Watson can make things happen, and that's what lets Fuller get open some. And at 3%, I'm willing to pay the $6,300 and take big leverage there. And I could play him naked. I don't have to have Watson to play him per se. He could fill in, as a third wide receiver or a flex for me easily. Tight ends, only a little bit less here. Doyle's questionable for week 2. Jarwin, we know, is out for Dallas for the year. And then Kittle's probably the big one. He's questionable for week 2. Knee injury didn't look good, but, we'll see. I mean, he's definitely going to be a high play if he does play. Right now, he's showing low ownership because based on the way he looked and reacted, he may not suit up. And it's the Jets, which some people have talked about. Do they really need him? Who knows? I don't think the Jets are just horrible. They're a potential bounce back in the sense of everybody's going to hammer the 49ers in the betting market, and it just may be a sneaky dog to play there. San Francisco didn't impress me in general with the way they operated the game and moved the ball. It's not like Arizona's world beaters by any means, and the Jets are terrible. We know that, but we'll see how that affects their play. And my play this week is Ertz, Eagles at the Rams. $5,600 is, significantly cheaper than Kettle, Andrews, and Kelsey. He's only shown 6% ownership. I think they're going to, we obviously saw they had troubles in the second half. I think they're going to have a lot of 2 tight ends on the field. And I think Goddard's going to be potentially popular because he's cheaper. He got a ton of catches last week. And, if I can get Ertz at 5,600, which is 1,400 cheaper than Kels, and we know his upside potential. And I think Wentz is going to try to get those guys the ball, shorter routes, off the line, stuff like that. I'm willing to take that chance there and play Ertz this week. My fade is Kelsey simply because I'm fading Mahomes here, $7,000 at the tight end position, which you could say, and this argument's been made, and I'm okay with it. If you look at him as a wide receiver, he's close to top 10 pricing. So it's not the end all be all if you think he's going to have that big of a game. He's the highest projected ownership, right above Andrews. I wouldn't mind playing him solo maybe if you wanted to go that route. If you didn't, but to eat Mahomes Kelsey combo and have it pay off, they're on the road at the Chargers. Not that the Chargers are world beater, but their defense is better than what most people think. Even though they lost Darwin James, they are still a pretty solid defense, and they may scheme to have Kelsey out and let the wide receivers beat them or something like that. So I'm going to take my chance on and just kind of fade the Chiefs this week. If they go off for 40, then I'll probably eat. I'm just going to eat them. I'll lose, right? That's the NFL. Like, there's certain spots you have to, play or fade, and chalky Chiefs in this situation is one I'm willing to pass on. My value is Noah Fant. I was huge on him last week, huge on him preseason. I have him in my fantasy leagues. And we saw, Locke is going to target him and be on him a lot. He's currently only showing 2.9%, plus he's $4,400. I have him as my number 1 DK value play of the week. and I'll have plenty of him at that ownership. I played him in DK last week. Last week, and did extremely well. Defense, obviously, I'm not going to go through like individual defensive injury concerns, so I won't be a thing. But probably it's kind of a unique week. I mean, I'm probably going to play a cheaper one, but if I was going to pay up and they're the highest, the 49ers D is still pretty good. They are battling some injuries in the secondary, but that front is going to be solid against the Jets, force them to pass the ball, could get some pressure, sacks, fumbles. They could give up some points because the secondary is beat up, but we're mainly looking for pressure, sacks, potential fumbles, scoop and score, stuff like that. I mean, they're the highest price on the deal, so $4,000 could be a way to get unique because a lot of people just pay down on defenses. They don't want to eat that. So if I was paying up, it'd be the 49ers. The two values I like, and I don't really have any fade on defense, but the two values I like are the Cardinals, which I think will probably be pretty popular. But right now they're only showing 3% ownership. I think they can get pressure on Haskins, and Haskins turned the ball over. I know he didn't throw a lot of interceptions, but some sacks and stuff like that, $3,000. I'm in on that. And then, or the Buccaneers, $2,900. Now they are getting some steam as a popular play at home against Carolina. $2,900, super cheap with the best upside. But even at 13% on a D, I don't care about the ownership as much if I can save the money and fit other things in my lineup, because the points for a defense is not going to be that big of a spread. It's impossible to project. I mean, we're going to have big weeks on defense where they get a pick six and a couple sacks, all that, but it's hard to project that. But I do like the Bucks. So I'll probably be between the Bucks and Cardinals on most of my builds, maybe throw a 49ers in to pay up and kind of differentiate a lineup or two. My last 4 out / gut plays, probably hinted on, you probably tell I hinted on it, was Aaron Rodgers. I don't mind going back there. I thought he'd be showing a little more than he is, but he's only showing 4.6 ownership. They're playing Detroit. Detroit's not that much more impressive than what Minnesota was as far as secondary goes. You saw that in the fourth quarter. They got, let up some passes there. And if you are going to play Rodgers and Adams, that's perfectly fine. You're saving, let's take, Mahomes, Kelsey type scenario, it's about the same for the pairing, and I like Rodgers and Adams upside. Adams he's kind of like Hopkins to me. He's going to be a target monster. And he looked possessed. Like he's ready to show off. Like he's the best wide receiver in the league. And they still have enough with, Lazard and MVS that, you can't just double up Adams, because the other guys have shown they'll show up, and they did last week, and they both got touchdown passes. So if they can keep that up, plus they got, 2 good, potentially 3 decent running backs out of the backfield, all they can pretty much catch the ball, it keeps pressure off of off of Rodgers, and, keeps some linebackers floating on the running backs if that middle is open. So I like Rodgers. He was just, like I said, last 4 out type of deal. Dalvin Cook is always in play for me. Indy's got a pretty decent running defense, and that's why I kind of hesitated to put him in. He was on my last 4 out, but he's only showing 7.9%. We know Minnesota's committed to the run, and if they can stay in the game, his numbers didn't look as good last week as they probably could have. He did get a touchdown, but because the game got out of hand, they had to come from behind so quick. But I don't see Indianapolis doing that, and so if it's a closer game, they can run the rock, control the ball, they'll do that. And so I like Cook as well this week. With some of the other things I've said, the last 4 out is Gallup or Lamb. Pick one. It really doesn't matter to me. Lamb's showing a little higher ownership right now, but if you're going to do that stack, I like both those guys to fit in with. You go Dak, Zeke, one of those guys, Dak, Cooper, one of those guys, both those guys in Dak, and leave. You can make some stacks out of those 5 right there. And so I like one of those 2 as well. And then my last 4 out is Cooper Kupp. I think, Big Bob had a great week last week. We know they're going to switch off all the time on who's going to have big weeks, who's not going to have big weeks. Cooper Kupp's showing 4.1% right now, whereas Robert Woods is showing 7.3%. Not a big difference. Kupp's actually a little bit higher in dollars, and so I would think people seeing how much Woods was targeted right out the gate, I think he'll, that's why he's getting a little bit more of the ownership. We know the Eagles secondary struggles, And so you could play both, certainly, but I like Cup this week, kind of as a 1 on 4% guy. I like that a lot. Next segment for us is a stack attack. My favorite 2 plays is Trubisky and Robinson. They will be one of my favorite stacks this week. And then the Cowboys. So like I just said, however you want to do it, Dak, Zeke, Cooper, Gallup, Lamb, mix and match, however you want to stack those guys. I like all of them this week. I think Dallas has a big game. Could be a shootout. We know Dallas got beat up on injuries. This could be Atlanta scored high, even though it was more late. I don't want to call it garbage because they were still kind of in it. They're staying enough close to make Saints kind of think about it. But I think it could be a high scoring game. Dallas is at home again. Maybe got the rust off a little bit. They have exploded, and they moved the ball great on the Rams. They just didn't score, at all. And a very frustrating game in general, but you saw the potential there. I think Lamb, preached him. I've got as many rookie cards as I can of him. I think he's going to be one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league within 3 years. So he's 4,700, but he is showing more high ownership, but I can mix and match any of those guys. They're all great. They have a great offense. Excited to see where they go this year, if they can stay healthy. They've already gotten beat up with injuries already. Betting/contest segment. My 2 favorite plays against the spread. I'm using the Super 7 spreads from our contest site. The first one is Broncos +7. I think that's kind of the overreaction spot for me this week, potentially. I just like that number. I like that dog off of what seemed like a bad performance. But again, they moved the ball as well. Them and the Titans had the over in that game. They both teams left a ton of points on the board. So I like Broncos +7, and I like the Bears -5.5. I think the gut reaction would be, Chicago just, not quite got lucky, but just came back late. They looked like shit for 3 quarters, and the Giants were okay versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just better team. Chicago's not 6 points better, or 5.5 points better than Chicago. So I think the public may be more on the Giants side, which doesn't really move my bet one way or the other. I think Chicago is probably good. I mean, I think if it all goes with Trubisky, if he can play a full game like he did that 4th quarter, they got a pretty decent defense, and the Giants aren't world beaters or anything on offense. They have Barkley and all that, but they need protection, all that. If they can keep pressure, I think the Giants could do well in that game and score a lot. And I don't know if the Giants can keep up with that pace, although they still have a pretty good offense. I mean, Shepard's good, Slayton's good. It could be kind of a shootout. I just like the Bears to get away at the end, probably win by 7 points, cover the 5.5. My dog of the week, so best underdog to have a chance to win outright, is Minnesota. I was on the Jaguars last week. I was one of the few in the industry that was. There was a lot of guys on the Colts. Minnesota, obviously, secondary and defense struggled a lot. I don't know if that's people are underrating Green Bay or just saying Minnesota's going to struggle all year. Well, the Colts are not Green Bay, first of all. Rivers is more on the latter end of his career. T.Y. is good, good possession wide receiver. Campbell looks to be coming along strong. I love Pittman, love him out of college. I think Taylor will be big, but they're still gelling. So you got to think this is one of those teams this is why I took a Jacksonville. Not that Jacksonville's great, but the number was just too much value there. People have struggled in the market, which is why you see the public's more on favorites to predict an underdog, and they wind up outright winning, but they struggle to pick an underdog because they're like that team can't beat that team. Well, you don't have to. That's why it's a betting market. They just got to cover the number, and people struggle with that mentally. But in this case, I think Minnesota can beat them outright. I'm not a huge believer in Indianapolis. I think they'll be better 6 weeks from now than they are today. Most teams are, but they didn't get their whole offseason to gel. They got a new quarterback in, a lot of new toys to play with, Taylor, Pittman. And I think that's going to hurt them some as, these first couple of weeks early. And so will the Vikings beat them outright? I don't know, but that's my favorite one on the board right now. They're getting +3. So I like the Vikings. My lean for Survivor. If you made it through week 1, congrats to you. I know we didn't do ours this year there's too much going on as far as all the COVID and all that. So we focused on the ones we did get out there, but I know there's a ton in Survivor pools. I'm still in some. Is the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs, I think they struggle. I don't know if I like the 8.5 number, and they're getting hammered in the market. I think it opened at like 5.5. But I think they would find a way to win. So they're on the road, but I think they'll find a way to win. I like the Chiefs as a Survivor pick. As always, new this year, as I mentioned, Sunday morning, 11:15 Eastern. Plan to go for about 30 minutes. That gives us all an hour and 15 minutes to finalize lineups, get them locked in. That crosses over into the inactive hour. So I'll have kind of the screen up, and as inactives roll in, we can discuss if there's any crucial ones right there at the last minute, how that affects everything. Kind of an open forum. So I need people in there to talk. Because if I'm just by myself, I'll just end it and go work on my lineups. So I leave that to y'all. I know the Wednesday E9, like we have a massive amount of people that watch it afterwards because you still got all night to watch it. And so the questions sometimes struggle because we've gone earlier, but everybody, we did a vote and like majority, almost unanimous, loved that we were doing it earlier. But we do need more participation in it because if we don't have a lot to talk about, you know, it kind of gets null and void. So appreciate the support in there. I'll be on there 11:15 Eastern time this week. It'll be on YouTube and for members only, just like E9. If you're not familiar with that, you will have access to it for that next 90 minutes or whatever it is, 75 minutes. So if you happen to say you get done with church at, you know, 11 or noon Eastern and you want to watch it while you're building lineups that last hour, you'll still have access to do that on the website, just like E9 is. Like I mentioned, if you want to join Gup's Corner now, football 25 gets you 25% off. Sent out a big email today about our entire football tools package, our building from the ground up, in-house, internally. It was a long message to the members. So positive feedback so far. And I barely got to react to it because I was getting ready for this, but big things coming. Golf tools have been phenomenal. We've had a lot of great feedback. The Green Machine lineup builder, we added NFL and college football. It's up and live. We mentioned that in the email that I sent out or the post I posted. Still, you know, phase one for that, got it going. We got to add, we're going to keep adding to it, making it better and better and better. But, you know, the capital and everything we're putting into the business, I think the community is appreciating and respect what we're doing. So we thank you for that. You want to be a member, football 25 for 25% off. If you're a current member, you want to upgrade, mention it in the post as well. Hit up us on DM or email support@gupscorner.com. We have loyalty discounts for you if you want to upgrade. You know, in general, it's been great. I'm glad to be back. It's been a nonstop week. I put out our content schedule, you know, on Twitter and posted it. I mean, for the value and everything that we bring to the table, bar none, I think we're, you know, as strong as anybody in the industry for the amount of stuff you guys get for the dollars you guys are paying. That's not to brag on us for being cheap per se. It's our mission and our core values were set in stone what it is. And so we wanted to keep growing this thing. And that's all we've done is keep growing and growing and growing. Yeah, we've lost people and all that, but I think we're as strong as we've ever been right now, especially in the back end. We've proven to put the human put capital into human and our products. And all we can do is keep getting better, but that doesn't happen without you guys supporting us. Obviously when you upgrade and you do all that kind of things, you buy shirts and merchandise, all that stuff, after I pay all the personnel, is going back into the business for capital right now. We're trying to get as big and strong as we can and provide as much things as we can. And hopefully we're proving that to you guys. So I appreciate it. This has been a huge week. We're going to have showstoppers tonight. We got stats. We didn't know if we were going to have live ones because it wasn't a PGA deal, but got confirmation on that. So I'll be deep diving on that and rocking that out. And I'll be in Slack tonight as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you guys Sunday morning, 11:15 Eastern. Have a blessed week. Thank you.